Hello students. So in this video we are going to solve the class 8 NSO exam paper from the year 2020 set 1, and we are going to solve the questions 26 to 50. As in any of my other videos you will learn the quickest method. I will tell you the secret as to how to quickly solve the question if the question has got multiple sub questions. Like match the following. You will learn the science concepts and fundamentals with some interesting facts and images, and this will also help you in your class 8 school exam. So first one, read the given statements and select the correct option. Melamine, which is a thermosetting plastic, is used for making electrical switches and handles of various utensils. So melamine is a thermosetting plastic, but it is not used for making electrical switches. What is used for making electrical switches? It is bakelite. And melamine is normally used for dishes. You may be having melamine dishes at home, isn't it? And melamine is a good conductor of heat and electricity. It is false. Plastics are normally not good conductors of heat and electricity. They may get heated, but they are not good conductors of electricity, and that's why you got plastic insulation on electrical wire. If you see an electrical wire, you will see there is a plastic insulation on top of the copper wire inside. W is an indicator which turns red on adding a base. What turns red on adding a base? Turmeric, isn't it? X is an indicator which turns red on adding acid. Methyl orange will turn red on adding acid. Y is an indicator which turns green on adding a base. China rose, it will turn green on adding a base. And Z is an indicator which remains colorless on adding an acid. So phenolphthalein will remain colorless on adding an acid. So correct option is D. Dead sea organisms transformed into petroleum and natural gas under the conditions of high temperature, high pressure, and absence of air, isn't it? Because when the organisms they die, they are buried in the soil, and say in the sea, if sea animal dies, then over millions and millions of years, thousands of years, because the sea sand also will shift, the animal will get buried in the sea sand, isn't it? So over thousands and millions of years the animal will get buried even deep, and because of the high depth and because of the high temperature, because as you go deep the temperature of the earth's crust it will increase because of the high temperature and high pressure and absence of air, isn't it? Because in the depth of the land there is no air. As you go deep into the earth there is no air. So because of this the organism, because of the decomposition process, because of the carbonization process, it will turn into petroleum and natural gas. A few substances are grouped randomly as follows, and you have to find the odd one out. So in the first, which is the odd one out? Citric acid is the odd one because citric acid is organic. We find that in the citrus fruits, oranges and lemons, isn't it? Nitric acid and sulfuric acid are inorganic. They are inorganic acids. Ammonia, baking soda, and caustic soda. So ammonia and baking soda are chemical leavening agents, isn't it? They are chemical leavening agents. But caustic soda is not a chemical leavening agent. And baking soda is basically, it gives that fluffiness to the bread, but caustic soda is not a chemical leavening agent. Oxalic acid, tartaric, and carbonic acid. So what is the odd one out? Carbonic acid, because it is a carboxylic acid, only one COOH, only one group of COOH, whereas oxalic acid and tartaric acid, they have got two groups, COOH, COOH, isn't it? They have got, oxalic acid has got two groups of COOH, isn't it? They're dicarboxylic acids. Oxalic and tartaric are dicarboxylic acids. Select the incorrect statements. Charcoal does not vaporize and hence does not produce flame, which is true, isn't it? Charcoal, it does not vaporize. That's why it does not produce flame. So that's why it is used in barbecues, isn't it? A circular blackish ring is formed if a glass plate is introduced into the non-luminous zone of a candle flame, which is false, isn't it? So because what is the circular blackish ring? It is soot. It is the soot, isn't it? And soot is formed uh, in the uh, soot is formed, it will not be formed in the uh, non-luminous zone, because non-luminous zone is the zone of complete combustion. This is the zone of complete combustion and no soot will be formed. However, if you put a glass plate inside, which is the luminous zone, zone of partial combustion, the glass plate will have the blackish ring, because in the zone of partial combustion, soot will be formed, isn't it? Soot is basically unburnt vapors. They are unburnt vapors, so soot will be formed there. Study the given reactions and fill in the blanks by selecting an appropriate option. So here, what is the easiest one? Easiest one is 3. 3 is the easiest one. And Fe plus O2 plus H2O, isn't it? It just gives one substance. Now there is iron, there is oxygen and hydrogen. What is that option in 3 which has got all these ions, which has got all these materials, iron, oxygen, hydrogen? This, isn't it? Number 3, Fe2O3 XH2O, iron oxide, iron hydroxide has got all these substances, iron plus oxygen plus H2O, isn't it? It has got all these substances, iron plus oxygen plus hydrogen. And that's why number 3 is the D is the correct option. In the oil wells, X forms the topmost layer, followed by Y and then Z. So what forms the topmost layer? Natural gas, because it is the lightest, it is gas. And then after that, oil, because oil is less dense than water. So oil will float on water, isn't it? You can do a small experiment at home. You can take a glass full of water and you put 2 or 3 drops of oil, any cooking oil, you will see that the oil will actually float on water, because oil is lighter than water. Miss Sheila and science teacher had arranged the following experimental setup. After a few hours, the color change will be observed in beakers 1, 3 and 4, isn't it? Because 1, copper sulfate and zinc. Copper sulfate and zinc. Now, zinc is more reactive than copper. So, zinc will actually displace the sulfate ions, isn't it? Zinc is more reactive than copper. So, reaction will happen here. Zinc sulfate and copper. Zinc sulfate and copper. Zinc is more reactive. Zinc will not let go of the sulfate ions. So, no reaction will take place. Iron sulfate and zinc. Iron sulfate and zinc, isn't it? Zinc is more reactive than iron, so zinc will try to grab the sulfate ions, so reaction will happen. And copper sulfate and iron, copper sulfate and iron, so again iron is more reactive than copper, so iron will grab hold of the sulfate ions, isn't it? Because iron is more reactive than copper, so copper will lose the sulfate ions, iron will grab the sulfate ions, and only the copper will be deposited on the iron nails. So only in 1, 3 and 4 the reactions will happen. Select the incorrect statement. Anthrax is a bacterial disease that affects humans and cattle, which is true, isn't it? At times you must have observed in the news few years back there was anthrax poisoning. The terrorists, they may use anthrax powder to poison and kill. Clostridium botulinum causes a serious type of food poisoning. Again, this is also is a very harmful food poisoning material. Citrus canker is a viral disease that affects citrus fruits. It is not a viral disease. It is caused by bacteria. Citrus canker is caused by bacteria Xanthomonas citri. And yellow vein mosaic is a viral disease that affects bindi, which is true. Which is the following is not an advantage of using manure or fertilizer? Manure, it is rich in inorganic nutrients, which is false. It is not an advantage. Manure is organic, isn't it? You make manure, which is compost from your wet waste, like fruit peels and vegetable waste and all, dry leaves, which is an organic. Manure is organic, and that's why it is not inorganic, isn't it? So number A is not an advantage. Select the option that correctly identifies the incorrect match. Streptomycins, they cause malaria. No, streptomycins is a bacteria which causes scab disease in crops, especially potato, isn't it? And malaria is caused by protozoa plasmodium, isn't it? Protozoa plasmodium. And there are various protozoa, the malaria falciparum and malaria vivax and all, isn't it? Rhizobium causes is a bacterium responsible for curdling of milk. Again, this is false. Number 2 is false. Rhizobium is a bacterium that causes crown gall disease in trees. And what causes curdling of milk? How do curds are formed in milk because of lactic acid bacteria, isn't it? Penicillin, it is a fungus from which an antibiotic is obtained, which is true. This was invented about 150 odd years ago. Euglena is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. Again, this is false. Euglena is a protozoa and it causes blood and tissue diseases. And what are the nitrogen fixing bacteria? Rhizobium are the nitrogen fixing bacteria, isn't it? And salmonella is causes food poisoning, which is also true, isn't it? Salmonella, it will cause food poisoning. It's a very dangerous substance. Which of the following statements is correct regarding a biosphere reserve? Which are the correct statements? Human activities like cultivation, recreation, forestry are allowed in the core zone. No, you cannot. The core zone, nothing is allowed. Only animals and flora and fauna are allowed in the core zone. Biosphere reserve is a specified area that promotes solutions reconciling the conservation of biodiversity with its sustainable use, which is uh, true, isn't it? It is true. It is a specified area which promotes solutions reconciling the conservation of biodiversity. Biosphere reserve comes under the category of ex situ. It is not ex situ. Ex situ is basically protection of plants and outside their natural environments, isn't it? But biosphere is basically protection of the biodiversity inside. It is in situ conservation inside their natural habitat. It is inside their natural habitat. In a biosphere reserve, education and research related activities are not permitted. Not actually, isn't it? In this buffer zones, you can do research activities. In buffer zones, you can do research activities as well as in the transition area as well. You can do research activities. Refer to the given figure and select the incorrect statement regarding this. P represents the human male gamete, which consists of a head, middle piece, and tail. Sperm, correct. Q represents the human female gamete, which is a single cell. The female egg, which is single cell, which is true, isn't it? The process shown in the figure is fertilization. When the sperm is trying to enter the egg, it is called fertilization. The resulting structure formed after the shown process is fetus. No, normally what is formed when the male gamete, this is male gamete sperm, it fertilizes the female gamete, which is egg, it forms zygote. And then zygote develops into fetus, but first it forms zygote. Identify P, Q, and R in the given table and select the correct statements regarding them. What is the correct statements? P could be Dionia, whereas Q could be Cuscuta, which is true, isn't it? So P, it grows in nitrogen deficient soil, and that's why Dionia, isn't it? Dionia, it traps insects, isn't it? And it also prepares food through photosynthesis. You can see the green color of the leaves. So even though it grows in nitrogen deficient soil, it still has got green leaves to photosynthesize. But for additional nutrition, it will also trap insects. And Q could be Cuscuta. It is leafless and rootless. It is a parasite, leafless and rootless. And normally, you may have seen Cuscuta, which is a straw-like, yellow straw-like structure in various plants like mehendi and all. And it does not grow in nitrogen deficient soil. It normally grows in even in the good soil as well. And it prepares food through photosynthesis. No, it does not produce food through photosynthesis. It basically sucks the nutrients from the host plant. So P is the correct statement. And Nepenthes, what is Nepenthes? Is basically pitcher plant. And Rafflesia, which is the world's largest flower, isn't it? Which smells like a dead corpse. So it is the world's largest flower, which can grow up to 3 feet. And it basically grows in Southeast Asia, Thailand and Indonesia regions. Refer to the given figures of seed fruit and select the correct statement regarding them. Again, easy question. W and X, they are dispersed by wind, isn't it? This looks like a helicopter. Again, this has got wings, so they are dispersed by wind. However, this seed has got thorns, so it will stick to the animal, isn't it? So they are dispersed by animal. So C is the correct statement. Match column 1 with column 2 and select the correct option, isn't it? So you just have to look at the option that you know. What is the most common? Insulin. Insulin is the most common, isn't it? Insulin is used for diabetic patients to control sugar. So for 4, it is B. Insulin is used for sugar level. So where is 4B? 4B is option B. You just have to look for insulin and sugar. 4B, isn't it? 4B. So correct option is B. And that's how you can solve the question as quickly as possible. A factory was built near a river. Factory waste containing mercury was discharged into river. The given graph shows the amount of mercury at 4 different locations in the river, isn't it? So at W, the amount of mercury is less, but at X, it is the highest, then it reduces, isn't it? So mercury is extremely poisonous substance, even though it is used in thermometers and all. Even if you ingest mercury, you could die. You could die within few minutes. It is extremely poisonous. Humans, animals, even plants, it is extremely poisonous substance. So select the option that correctly identifies the area with the least P and most number of fish, least and most. Obviously, at X, the fish will be least because the amount of mercury is the highest, isn't it? And at W, the fish will be the most because the amount of mercury is the lowest, isn't it? Amount of mercury is the lowest. So fish may thrive, but at X, Y, and Z, I think most of the fish will die here. And at X, most of the fish will die. Select the incorrect match of animal and the wood obtained from it, isn't it? So alpaca gives Yua kaya fiber. It does not give merino. Merino is basically from the merino sheep. Merino sheep gives the merino wool. So option C is the incorrect match. Which of the following is not the adaptive features of animals living in desert regions? Large ears, yes, it is. You do need large ears in desert for listening to predators, isn't it? You must have seen in Discovery or National Geographic where the desert rat, like a kangaroo rat or desert rat, it has got large ears because it needs to listen to owls. In some of the desert area, there are also owls which hunt for rats. So those rats have got very large ears. Prehensile tails, no, you don't need prehensile tails in deserts. They are in monkeys in the forest, isn't it? Subcutaneous fat, you don't need that in desert because subcutaneous fat is basically thermal insulation. You need that in the polar regions, in the frigid zones, like polar bears. They have got subcutaneous fat. Seals or whales. Concentrated urine, yes, you do require this adaptation in desert because you need to conserve water, and that's why the urine is extremely concentrated. The urine is extremely concentrated. So you do need this adaptation. And frugivorous, no, in deserts there are very little plants and there are no or very little fruit trees. So no frugivorous animals they can survive, isn't it? Because there are so little fruit trees, no animal can just survive on the fruits there. So 2, 3, and 5 are not the correct, are not the adaptive features for animals living in desert regions. Identify 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the given figure. What is 1? 1 is basically the water is entering the soil, percolation. It recharges the wells. 2 is evaporation. The water is evaporating because of the sun's heat. 3 is rain. The water is falling. And 4 is condensation, isn't it? When the evaporation happens, it condenses it condenses into water vapor. And if the cloud has got that level of high level of water vapor, then the cloud, it condenses and falls into rain, isn't it? So which is the incorrect statement? Deforestation could lead to an increase in process 2 and 3. So if you cut down the trees, if you cut down the forest, isn't it? It will lead to increase in process 2. No, it will not lead to increase in process 2. It will do decrease of evaporation, isn't it? Because of climate change, the less water will get evaporated and less rain will fall, isn't it? Less rain will fall. Evaporation and rainfall cycle will be adversely affected if you cut down the trees, isn't it? And that's why in good forest areas there is good amount of rainfall because you need that rainfall in for survival of trees, isn't it? And so if you cut down the trees, the rain cycle will be adversely affected. Refer to the given flow chart and select the correct statement regarding it, isn't it? So sloth bear and olive ridley turtle. So it is extinct. Are they extinct? No. Sloth bear and olive ridley sea turtle, they are not extinct. So either option is option A, passenger pigeon, or option D, dodo. Both of them are extinct. Now let's see Q, golden langur and red panda, isn't it? Or we'll see the R. Let's see R. R is Great Indian Bustard and Indian Rhinoceros, isn't it? Now the Great Indian Bustard, it is not vulnerable. It is not vulnerable. It is basically critically endangered. It is even worse than vulnerable. It is even worse, isn't it? So great, the Great Indian Bustard, it is critically endangered because there are less than 150 individuals. So the correct option is option R, where Indian rhinoceros is vulnerable. Less than 10,000 of them are uh, available in the wild. They are roaming in the wild, isn't it? So R is Indian rhinoceros, Q is endangered, which is red panda, and S is it is not vulnerable. Brown bear is not vulnerable because you can see brown bears normally in many regions of the world. In Russia, there are brown bears, or where there is extreme cold, like in parts of Canada or America. There are lots and lots of brown bears in Alaska and all. Refer to the given Venn diagrams and select the incorrect option. So, double membrane organelles. Which are the double membrane organelles? Sorry, we are double membrane. Are mitochondria, chloroplast, and nucleus, isn't it? Double membrane are mitochondria, chloroplast, and nucleus. So P could be mitochondria and nucleus. They are both present in plant and animal cells, isn't it? They are also present in plant. They are double membrane and they are also present in animals. And Q is only present in plant. So chloroplasts, they are only present in plant. They are not present in animal cell. They are only present in plant. So chloroplast, they give green color and they consume carbon dioxide and liberate oxygen, isn't it? And R could be any other organelle in the in animal cell not having a double membrane, isn't it? So what are the other organelles? Are any other organelle in animal cell? So lysosome, vacuoles, ribosomes, isn't it? They are any other organelles which they don't have a double membrane. So what is the incorrect option? P could be an organelle. P could be an organelle that liberates oxygen, and Q could be an organelle that consumes oxygen. So Q, it does not consume oxygen. Q basically consumes carbon dioxide. Q, which is chloroplast. Chloroplast is a double membrane, which is not found in animal cell. So Q is found in plant cell. So chloroplast, they do not consume oxygen. They consume carbon dioxide and they liberate oxygen. So they liberate oxygen. So option D is the incorrect option. When objects move through fluids, the frictional force exerted by fluids is called, it is called drag, isn't it? It is called drag. When you move your hand in the water, you find that frictional force, which is called drag. Or when swimmers they swim, they have to streamline their bodies so that they can reduce the drag. The frictional force on an object in a fluid depends on its speed, is it? If you move your hand slowly, you should be able to move. But you try to move your hand fast in water, it will be very difficult for you to move your hand very fast in water. This force also depends on the shape of the object, isn't it? Shape of the object. So if you try to move your hand with the palm, which is basically with the erect palm, isn't it? With the erect palm or with a unfolded hand, it will be very difficult. But do a if you just clasp your hand palm into a fist, you should be able to do that because you are basically reducing the drag. So it depends on the shape of the object as well. And four, on the nature of fluid, because it depends on various factors of the fluid, density and viscosity and temperature and pressure as well. So it depends on the nature of the fluid. Mahesh is pushing a box on ground. Frictional force between the box and the ground is 2 newtons. Mass of the box is 2 kg. Variable force F applied by Mahesh with time is shown in the graph. Which of the following is the correct acceleration time graph of the block? So acceleration of block is net force of the block upon mass. So variable force for between 2 and 4 seconds. What is the variable force? It is between 4 and 8. So 6. And acceleration is net force upon mass. So what is the net force? Frictional force, the variable force minus frictional force, isn't it? Because the variable force is the pulling force and frictional force is the opposing force. So 6 minus 2. What is the frictional force? 2. Variable force is 6 and frictional force is 2. So net force is 6 minus 2 is 4 newtons. So acceleration will be 4 newtons upon mass of the block is 2 kg. 4 upon 2 is 2 newtons per kg. So it is 2 newtons per kg. And between 4 and 6, what is the variable force? 12. So what is the net force? Variable force minus frictional force. So 12 minus 2 is 10 newtons. So acceleration is net force upon mass. So 10 upon 2. Mass is 2 kg. So 10 upon 2 is 5 newtons per kg. So that's why this 5. So the correct option is option C. Study the given diagram. Again, this diagram is fractional distillation. And what are the various components at 20 degrees? Butane and propane, isn't it? They are the lightest gases. 100 and 150 degrees, petrol will be distilled. 200 degrees, kerosene. 300 degrees, diesel. And 370 degrees, fuel oil. And at 400 degrees as well, lubricating oil, paraffin wax, and asphalt, the most densest, they will be collected at the bottom. And what is the what does it and what is to be fractionally distilled? Crude oil, isn't it? Crude oil, which we obtained from the earth. It is heated in a furnace. So this is the furnace. So which of the following statements are correct? Fraction 1 has higher boiling point than fraction 4. It is false. Butane, which is 1, it has got lower boiling point than diesel. Diesel boils at 300, but butane just boils at 20 degrees. Fraction 6 is thicker than 3, which is again which is true. Lubricating oil, fraction 6, it is thicker than 3. Kerosene, 3 is kerosene, isn't it? Kerosene is liquid. Lubricating oil is much thicker than kerosene. If fraction 2 is petrol and 4 is kerosene, then 3 is diesel, which is false. 2 is petrol, 3 is kerosene, and 4 is diesel. And 6 is the densest fraction of fractional distillation. Again, this is true. Lubricating oil, paraffin wax, and asphalt. 6, isn't they are the densest fraction of the fractional distillation. So with this, students, we have come to the end of class at NSO exam paper 2020 set 1 questions 26 to 50. And I would suggest you like and subscribe to my channel for getting the next set of videos. Thank you, students. Thank you. Bye bye.